With all the information at hand after completing our script breakdown and gathering any additional information and resources, we're ready to start iterating on the visual development of our film. We'll begin to rough out ideas for environments, characters, props, and our overall art direction inside of the engine. Different creators are going to have different approaches for creating their virtual locations or sets. Some people prefer to do thumbnail sketches to really nail the look down before modeling the exact thing that they want to see inside of the engine. Some people prefer to do digital concept art, so they're using Photoshop, they're doing photo collages, and other people prefer to do gray boxing in the engine, of course, among many other ways. So I've decided that I'd like to gray box the grasslands location that appears in my script. I'm going to do this by framing up a cinema camera inside of an empty level with the idea of my wide master shot in mind. And then I'm going to start filling the frame with simple geometry, testing out my composition based off a board that I've created. This is going to help me put together the general look and feel without spending a lot of time manipulating very specific assets. I can start working with ideas like the composition of the shot, how the flow works from left to right, how things are balanced before I put in any sort of high fidelity assets. This is going to just give me a very simplified idea of what I'm eventually going to create. Some creators just like to dive right in and begin iterating in a more organic and improvisational way. Choose what method works best for you. How would you be doing this if you were creating this project for live action? If you were not creating locations for your live action piece, you most likely would still scout the location. So if you're going to be using pre-existing assets, you're not going to be creating anything yourself, you might as well drop in a camera and start moving it around and start trying to see and feel out what the angles will be, especially if you don't have any sort of boards or pre-visualization done. So consider the idea of using an asset pack that suits your narrative or collaborating with someone else who can help execute your creative vision. If you're not an asset creator, you can still be a creative filmmaker using the engine. This way, if you aren't quite ready to be the literal world builder as well as storyteller, you'll still feel at home when choosing how to cover your scene. If you have subjects or characters in your scene, it's good to start thinking ahead about what they're going to look like and how they'll fit into the aesthetic or style of your piece. Aesthetic continuity is important. Try not to choose aesthetics that clash unless that's part of the narrative you're creating. If creating your own character assets, you'll be in full control of this during that phase of development in another DCC, but if you are using sourced assets like I am for this project, I'm using all free assets that are available on the marketplace, test them out side by side inside of the engine with some simple lighting to see if the aesthetic continuity holds up. Props that are called out in your script breakdown will need to be sourced or created as well. Treat this the same way you're treating the selection and creative iteration of your other assets, like characters and environments. If you're creating them outside of the engine, you're going to be in total control over their look. But if you're sourcing assets, you'll be limited to whatever you're acquiring. You can also kit bash customer sourced assets inside of the engine, which is what I'm doing to create the cryotube and colony ship props for this film. And to tie this all together, let's develop a camera language and our final visual look. What does the filmed piece look like? This means what sort of aspect ratio are you using? So in that case, we're going to have to choose our virtual camera settings. So not only the film back, but let's think about the lenses. What does this film feel like? Is it epic? Is it intimate? Do we use mixed media, like different frame sizes and virtual camera presets to tell this story? If so, what are these formats and how are they utilized? When combining this camera language and visual look with your gray boxed locations or lighting tests of your digital characters, you're going to start getting a much more clear idea of what the visuals will look like in your finished piece.